Good day, children. Today we move on to the 11th lesson from the textbook First Flight, The Proposal by Anton Chekhov. Now this is a play, okay? Now the word proposal has several meanings. It can be a suggestion, it can be an offer, or it can also be an act of asking somebody's hand in marriage. Now the proposal is originally titled as A Marriage Proposal, which is a one-act play by the Russian short story writer and dramatist Anton Chekhov, and this was written in 1888 to 89. Now this play is about the tendency of wealthy families to seek ties with other wealthy families to increase their estates by encouraging marriages that make good economic sense. So wealthy families, they marry with each other so that they can increase their property or their estate. Ivan Lomov, a long-time wealthy neighbor of Stefan Shubukov, also wealthy, comes to seek the hand of Shubukov's 25-year-old daughter Natalia. All three are quarrelsome people and they quarrel over petty issues. Quarrel, argue. Okay, the proposal is in danger of being forgotten amidst all this quarreling. But economic good sense ensures that the proposal is made after all, although the quarreling perhaps continues. So, even though the arguments and the quarrels can continue, the economic good sense, that is the sense to increase the estates or the wealth among the two families, is finally made, but the quarreling continues. So let's read and find out. So there are three main characters here. Stepan Stepanovich Shubukov is the landowner. Natalia Stepanova is his daughter, who is 25 years old. Then you have Ivan Vasilovich Lomov, who is a neighbor of Shubukov. He is a large and hearty but very suspicious landowner. Moving on to the play. A drawing room in Shubukov's house. Lomov enters wearing a dress jacket and white gloves. Shubukov rises to meet him. "My dear fellow, whom do I see?" "Ivan Vasilovich. I'm extremely glad." Squeezes his hand. "Now, this is a surprise, my darling. How are you?"
Thank you. And how may you be getting on?
"We just get along somehow, my angel, thanks to your prayers and so on. Sit down, please do. Now, you shouldn't forget all about your neighbors, my darling. My dear fellow, why are you so formal in your get-up? Evening dress, gloves and so on. Can you be going anywhere, my treasure?"
No, I have come only to see you, honored Stepan Stepanovich.
"Then why are you in evening dress, my precious? As if you're paying a New Year's Eve visit?"
Well, you see, it is like this. I've come to you, honored Stepan Stepanovich, to trouble you with a request. Not once or twice have I already had the privilege of applying to you for help, and you have always, so to speak. I must ask your pardon. I'm getting excited. I shall drink some water, honored Stepan Stepanovich.
Drinks aside, he's come to borrow money. Shan't give him any. Aloud. "What is it, my beauty?"
You see, honored Stepanich, I beg pardon, Stepan Honorich. I'm awfully excited, as you will please notice. In short, you alone can help me, though I don't deserve it, of course, and haven't any right to count on your assistance.
"Oh, don't go round and round it, darling. Spit it out." "Well?"
One moment, this very minute. The fact is, I've come to ask the hand of your daughter, Natalia Stepanovna, in marriage.
Joyfully. "By Jove! Ivan Vasilovich, say it again. I didn't hear it all."
I have the honor to ask.
Interrupting. "My dear fellow, I'm so glad and so on. Yes, indeed, and all that sort of thing." Embraces and kisses Lomov. "I have been hoping for it for a long time. It's been my continual desire." Sheds a tear. "And I have always loved you, my angel, as if you were my own son. May God give you both his help and his love and so on. And so much hope. What am I behaving in this idiotic way for? I am off my balance with joy. Absolutely off my balance. Oh, with all my soul. I'll go and call Natasha and all that."
Honored Stepan Stepanovich, do you think I may count on her consent?
"Why, of course, my darling. And as if she won't consent. She is in love, egad. She is like a lovesick cat, and so on. Shan't be long. Exit.
It's cold and trembling all over, just as if I had got an examination before me. The great thing is, I must have my mind made up. If I give myself time to think, to hesitate, to talk a lot, to look for an ideal or for real love, then I will never get married. It's cold. Natalia Stepanovna is an excellent housekeeper, not bad looking, well educated. What more do I want? But I'm getting a noise in my ears from excitement. And it is impossible for me not to marry. In the first place, I'm already 35, a critical age, so to speak. In the second place, I ought to lead a quiet and regular life. I suffer from palpitations. I'm excitable and always getting awfully upset. At this very moment, my lips are trembling and there is a twitch in my right eyebrow. But the very worst of all is the way I sleep. I no sooner get into bed and begin to go off when suddenly something in my left side gives a pull, and I can feel it in my shoulder and head. I jump up like a lunatic, walk about a bit, and lie down again. But as soon as I begin to get off to sleep, there is another pull, and this may happen 20 times.
Natalia Stepanova comes in. Well, there, it's you. And Papa said, go, there's a merchant come for his goods. How do you do, Ivan Vasilevich?
How do you do, honored Natalia Stepanovna?
You must excuse my apron and negligee. We are shelling peas for drying. Why haven't you been here for such a long time? Sit down. They seat themselves. Won't you have some lunch?
No, thank you. I've had some already.
Then smoke. Here are the matches. The weather is splendid now. But yesterday it was so wet that the workmen didn't do anything all day. How much hay have you stacked? Just think, I felt greedy and had a whole field cut. And now I'm not at all pleased about it because I'm afraid my hay may rot. I ought to have waited a bit. But what's this? Why, you are in evening dress. Well, I never. Are you going to a ball or what? Though I must say you look better. Tell me, why are you got up like that?
You see, honored Natalia Stepanovna, the fact is, I've made up my mind to ask you to hear me out. Of course, you'll be surprised and perhaps even angry. But it's awfully cold.
What's the matter, boss? Well?
I shall try to be brief. You must know, honored Natalia Stepanovna, that I have long, since my childhood, in fact, had the privilege of knowing your family. My late aunt and her husband, from whom, as you know, I inherited my land, always had the greatest respect for your father and your late mother. The Lomos and the Chibukos have always had the most friendly, and I might almost say the most affectionate regard for each other. And as you know, my land is a near neighbor of yours. You'll remember that my Oxen Meadows touch your birchwoods.
Excuse my interrupting you. You say my Oxen Meadows? But are they yours?
Yes, mine.
What are you talking about? Oxen Meadows are ours, not yours.
No, mine, honored Natalia Stepanovna.
Well, I never knew that before. How do you make that out?
How? I am speaking of those Oxen Meadows which are wedged in between your birchwoods and the burnt marsh.
Yes, they are ours.
No, you are mistaken, honored Natalia Stepanovna. They are mine.
Just think, Ivan Vasilevich, how long have they been yours?
How long? As long as I can remember.
Really, you won't get me to believe that.
But you can see from the documents, honored Natalia Stepanovna, Oxen Meadows, it is true, were once the subject of dispute. But now everybody knows that they are mine. There is nothing to argue about. You see, my aunt's grandmother gave the free use of these meadows in perpetuity to the peasants of your father's grandfather, in return for which they were to make bricks for her. The peasants belonging to your father's grandfather had the free use of the meadows for 40 years and had got into the habit of regarding them as their own. When it happened that...
No, it isn't at all like that. Both grandfather and great-grandfather reckoned that their land extended to burnt marsh, which means that Oxen Meadows were ours. I don't see what there is to argue about. It's simply silly.
I'll show you the documents, Natalia Stepanovna.
No, You're simply joking or making fun of me. What a surprise! We have had the land for nearly 300 years and then we are suddenly told that it isn't ours? Ivan Vasilevich, I can hardly believe my own ears. These meadows aren't worth much to me. They only come to 5 desiatins and are worth perhaps 300 rubles. But I can't stand unfairness. Say what you will, I can't stand unfairness.
Hear me out, I implore you. The peasants of your father's grandfather, as I have already had the honor of explaining to you, used to bake bricks for my aunt's grandmother. Now, my aunt's grandmother, wishing to make them a pleasant.
I can't make head or tail of all this about aunts and grandfathers and grandmothers. The meadows are ours, that's all.
Mine.
Ours. You can go on proving it for 2 days on end. You can go and put on 15 dress jackets, but I tell you, they are ours, ours, ours. I don't want anything of yours and I don't want to give anything of mine. So there.
Natalia Stepnovna, I don't want the meadows, but I'm acting on principle. If you like, I'll make you a present of them.
I can make you a present of them myself because they are mine. Your behavior, Ivan Vasilevich, is strange to say the least. Up to this, we have always thought of you as a good neighbor, a friend. Last year, we lent you our threshing machine, although on that account we had to put off our own threshing till November, but you behaved to us as if we were gypsies, giving me my own land indeed. No, really, that's not at all neighborly. In my opinion, it's even impudent, if you want to know.
Then you make out that I'm a land grabber? Madam, never in my life have I grabbed anybody else's land, and I shan't allow anybody to accuse me of having done so.
It's not true. They are ours. It's not true. I will prove it. I will send my mowers out to the meadows this very day.
What?
My mowers will be there this very day.
I'll give it to them in the neck.
You dare.
Oxen Meadows are mine. You understand? Mine.
Please don't shout. You can shout yourself hoarse in your own house. But here, I must ask you to restrain yourself.
If it wasn't, madam, for this awful, excruciating palpitation, if my whole inside wasn't upset, I would talk to you in a different way. Oxen Meadows are mine.
Ours.
Mine.
Ours.
Mine.
So the starting of the play is a conversation between Shubukov and Lomov. So the curtain rises in Shubukov's drawing room where Lomov enters fully dressed up in his evening attire and Shubukov stands up to greet him. And he welcomes his neighbor Ivan Vasilevich very politely and asks about his well-being. While shaking hands, he also asked Lomov the reason for his visit. So while thanking Shubukov for asking about his well-being, Lomov asks him about his condition and Shubukov replies by saying that they somehow manage to survive peacefully with blessings of people like Lomov himself, and he asks him to sit down comfortably, and he's quite surprised by Lomov's formal evening attire, and he questions the occasion, and in a very polite manner he even refers to Lomov as my angel, my treasure, and so on. And Lomov replies that there's no special occasion and he had just come to see the revered Stepan Stepanovich. And but Shubukov was still curious and asked the reason behind Lomov's outfit, because it looked as if Lomov was paying them a New Year Eve's visit. That's the time when people dressed formally. And with all due respect, Lomov grabs Shubukov's arm and conveys his intention of troubling him with a request. And with all gratitude, Lomov mentions the times when Shubukov had helped him. And as he continues talking, he starts getting excited. So to calm himself, he drinks some water. And Shubukov assumes that Lomov had come to ask for some money which he had no intention of giving him. So he asked the matter of concern, and tremendously excited and nervous, Lomov couldn't even speak properly, to the extent that he was unable to even get Shubukov's name right. So he begs Shubukov's pardon for his clearly visible excitement, and Lomov tells him that he's the only person who could help him in the situation, although he doesn't deserve it and he has no right to ask for it. Now Shubukov doesn't understand what Lomov was referring to, and so he asks him to speak directly. And Lomov finally speaks up, only to confess that he had actually come there to ask for Shubukov's daughter's hand in marriage. Now Shubukov couldn't believe what he had just heard out of delight and asked Lomov to repeat what Lomov had said. And as soon as Lomov continues to repeat his words, Shubukov interrupts him because he's very excited. And he's so delighted that he expresses his cheerfulness and contentment, and he fell short of words to express his high spirits, and overwhelmed on seeing his long due desire getting fulfilled, that is to get his daughter married. He kissed Lomov, and he couldn't control but shed a tear on hearing the news. So he offers his blessing to both Lomov and his daughter Natalia before he realizes that he had actually been behaving in a very silly manner, and he calls Natalia to give this great news to her. So Lomov asks Shubukov if Natalia will consent, for the marriage. And Shubukov expresses that there is no way Natalia wouldn't consent because she is also longing for Lomov's love. And he exits to call her and give the two a chance to talk privately. Now Lomov feels very nervous and he shakes all over, just like he's got an examination before him. He feels that if it is in his favor, then he had already made his mind up, because if he gave himself time to ponder upon it, then his marriage would end up getting delayed or worse, or even being cancelled. So he reassures himself that Natalia Stepanovna would make a great partner, as she is average looking, an excellent housekeeper and well educated. So what else could a man ask for? And so still excited, he could still feel some noises in his ear, and he did not give himself the option of not marrying after he had reached the critical age of 35, because he wished to live a normal and ordinary life. So he generally suffers from an abnormally high heart rate, and he gets upset quite easily. Even at that moment, his lips were trembling and his eyebrows were twitching. Above all this, he doesn't sleep well. So whenever he sleeps, he feels there's a pull in the right side of his head and shoulder. Then he jumps, walks and lies down, but as soon as he is to get off to sleep, he experiences another pull. So this has happened for around 20 times. So Shubukov's daughter Natalia enters the scene only to see Ivan Vassilevich. To her surprise, her father had told her that some merchant was waiting to get his goods. So Lomov asks about her well-being, and she apologizes for her apron and dress as they had been shelling peas for drying, and asks him to be comfortable. She even offers him lunch. So on being asked for lunch, Lomov tells her that he had already had his lunch, and she then offers Lomov to smoke. She talks about the great weather they were experiencing, and how the day was bad, how bad it was led the previous day. The workmen couldn't do anything the whole day, and she starts talking about her hay stock and how she had been greedy enough to get the entire field cut, which was worrying her now. So while talking, she suddenly notices Lomov's dress and guesses that if he was going for a party or a ball, and she compliments him and asks him the occasion. Now Lomov begins to talk and warns her that she could be surprised or even angry upon hearing he feels strangely cold at that moment. Natalia asks him the matter of concern. Now Lomov tries to be brief in his approach. He begins by recalling the good relations between both of their families from the beginning. His late aunt and her husband respected Natalia's parents. He even mentions that their lands are neighbors to each other, and his Oxen Meadows touches their birch woods. Now Natalia questions the integrity of Lomov by asking if the Oxen Meadows that he claims to own are actually his. So Lomov affirms that it is his. She couldn't believe what she was hearing, because according to her, the Oxen Meadows are hers. Now Lomov exclaims that it was his. Natalia says that she wasn't aware of it, and asks Lomov for an explanation. Now he clarifies and points out that the exact Oxen Meadows he is actually talking about are the ones that are wedged between birchwoods and the burnt marsh. So Natalia also confirms that she is also talking about this particular meadow. Now Lomov thinks there's some misunderstanding that Natalia has, because he's very sure that they are his. Now Natalia tells Lomov to think about how long have the Oxen Meadows been his. Now he replies that they had been his forever. Now Natalia comments that she can't believe him. So Lomov mentions that he has the proof that the land belongs to him. He even highlights how once Oxen Meadows was a disputed property, but the issue had been resolved and they are now his. And he goes back to its history and specifies how his aunt's grandmother had given the free use of these meadows, in a quality of which lasts forever, to the peasants of her father's grandfather. And according to him, it was given for 40 years, and the peasants got in the habit of regarding it as if it is their own. But Natalia disagrees, and she says that no, since childhood she has heard her grandfather and great grandfather that tell that their land is extended till the burnt marsh, and she completely trusted them. She doesn't see any point in arguing about its ownership. Now Lomov insists on showing her the proof. Natalia thinks of it as some kind of joke because she believes the land is theirs since past 300 years, and now someone comes claiming it to be his property, even though the land isn't of much worth, only about 300 rubles. But Natalia is highly disappointed by this unfairness. Now Lomov begs Natalia to at least listen to what he's trying to say. He mentions that her great grandfather's peasants used to bake bricks for his aunt's grandmother, and as he continued talking, he was interrupted by Natalia, and she expresses her reluctance, on listening to any of his tales. She just knows one thing, that the Oxen Meadows are hers. Now Lomov claims that it is his, and Natalia disagrees and tells him that he can do one thing to prove his theory, or wear 15 such dress jackets, which means that she's not going to come under his influence of him being well dressed, but she'll never accept the fact that the meadows are his. And she clarifies that she wants nothing from him, and she doesn't intend on giving anything that is hers, but the Oxen Meadows are hers. Now Lomov clarifies that even he doesn't value the Oxen Meadows much, but he is just being fair and acting on principle. He even offered to make a present of the meadows to her. Natalia offers to make a present of them to him because they are actually hers. Now she's shocked at how he is offering to gift her property to her. So she mentions that he had been acting very strange until then. They thought of him as a friendly neighbor, and now he is acting not at all acting neighborly. So Natalia's family offered him their threshing machine last year, even if it meant that, it will delay their own process. But he had been treating them oddly. So she feels that, he's not showing due respect to them. So he takes it as if Natalia is accusing him of being a land grabber. And he gets offended and he mentions that, never in his entire life had he grabbed something which was not his. And he cannot stand someone accusing him of the same. So while sipping on some water, he mentions that the Oxen Meadows are his. Now Natalia insists that it is theirs. Lomov is adamant that on his point of view. Now Natalia feels that to prove her ownership, she has to send the grass cutters at the location the same day. Lomov can't believe what Natalia was saying. So Natalia insists that the grass cutters will be there that very day. Lomov threatens that he will hit Natalia's mowers. Now Natalia threatens that he should not dare to do such a thing. Lomov gets aggressive and mentions in a high tone that the Oxen Meadows are his and only his. Now Natalia asks Lomov to behave and refrain from shouting in her house. He even makes a mention of his extremely painful increased heart rate and blames it for his tone. Even in such a pain, he doesn't stop claiming the Oxen Meadows. So they both continue to argue. Okay, we'll stop here with part 1. We'll continue in the next video. Thank you, children.